Okay, for this install, I'm going to be using a Cadence zero gauge 3000 watt wiring kit. You can click on one of the links around here to see my unboxing and review of it. The first step that I'm going to do is install the RCA cables. You want to make sure that you run the RCA cables separate from your power cable so that it does not interfere with the signal going back to your amp. Alright, so at this point, got the RCA wires run. I got them sitting out here loose because I'm not ready to hook up a system yet. Got them run down underneath here, all nice along each panel so you can't see anything. You come back here, still all tucked up nice and neat, and then I'm just going to run them into the trunk, under the seat, and it'll be complete. Next I'm going to take the zero gauge wire and I'm going to solder on the connectors. For this part you're going to want to put the wire in some sort of a jig to hold it, apply some flux, and then put on your connector. When you heat it up, you want to make sure that you are heating the terminal and not the wires. Once the terminal is hot, push the solder onto the terminal and fill it up until it bubbles at the top. When you're going to be running your wire, you need to decide whether you want to make it flashy or barely noticeable. In my build, I wanted to make it barely noticeable, so I ran it underneath things, behind my airbox, along with other wires that I've rarely ever seen. I was able to find a spot through my fender that I was able to go through the firewall with all the rest of the electrical connectors. You want to make sure that after you get your wire run through that you zip tie the wire off to any existing wires you're running it against. That way you don't have any problems down the road where the wire will be rubbed raw and short out on the frame of your vehicle. So what I found works best for me, instead of actually putting screws in the fuse block, I like to use Velcro. Makes it easier to remove it, and it doesn't make it so that you have to drill into your vehicle. I absolutely hate drilling into my vehicle unless I absolutely have to. There's always a way to make it work without putting new holes in your vehicle. And this is completely solid, removable. The wires are hidden pretty well. If you want to use some wire loom to cover it up, you can use some of this black wire loom that came with the amp wiring kit. And then that way all you would see would be this right here. Alright, so here is my mocked up box that I used out of McDonald's boxes, because you can get them for free out of their recycling bin in the back, just to get an idea of the size and the placement and how things will go. It's not perfect, but it gives you a general idea. As you can see here, the angle is actually going to be the front of the box, and the flat part on the left is going to be the back of the box. So I used the kicker box on the right as a demo to see how I would like the way that it's spaced. But as you can see, the top of the kicker box and the top of my box that I'm going to be building is two totally different sizes. Now, believe it or not, the box on the left is still 3.8 cubic feet. So I will have plenty of cubic feet inside the speaker box, but you could tell the top is only 10 inches, whereas on the kicker box I believe it's right around 14 to 15 inches. So it saves me a whole lot of room in my trunk. So now I have all the boards marked out to 40 inches, which is how wide my speaker box is actually going to be. Now all I need to do is just cut them down widthwise. Alright, so one of the most important steps to do before you start cutting to make sure everything is perfect is to get an angle finder and check to see if your blade is actually at 90 degrees. That way you don't have angled cuts. So I've got here, got it zeroed out. My blade's pulled up way higher than I needed to. As you can see, it's 90 degrees perfectly. Next, you want to set the saw blade depth. You want to make sure that you do not have more than 1/8 of an inch above the board you're cutting, just for safety reasons. Alright, so there you have it. All the pieces are cut to 40 inches. Now I need to cut them down to the size for each piece. So my next step is going to be cutting 62.5-degree angle into the top and bottom piece of the subwoofer box. This angle comes from the back angle of my seats that I measured out with my angle finder. What I'm going to do is just take it off of the far right edge from what you're looking at. That way I have room to measure off if any mistakes are done. If you cut it to size and then take the risk of cutting off that edge, you run the risk of having to do the whole piece all over again. And there you have it. Nice, perfectly smooth, right on the edge. Next I'll mark out my measurements and cut it from there. Here's a quick note that I've learned over time. Since you have your saw blade set to the correct angle, make sure you cut all your angled pieces at once. That way the angles match up. If you cut one now, straighten the blade out, cut one later, and for some reason it's off, it's going to mess up the whole project. But at least this way, if it's off this time, it's off on both pieces and you can correct it from there. This is a prime example of cutting both pieces at the same time. As you can see, they are identical. Here's a picture of what you will see built in the next videos in this series. This is a picture of the subwoofers, fully finished, all wired up and in working order. Please click on some of the links around here to check out my other videos and subscribe below. Hit the like button if this video was helpful to you and let me know how I'm doing. Thanks for watching.